Dr. Richardson, can you mentioned already in your talk about the blood clots claims related to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Can you summarize that succinctly again for us? Because I know people are still asking.
Yeah, I think that, and I think the important point is to build on what Dr. Sharma was saying, is we've now seen AstraZeneca given to millions of people. And sometimes what happens when you take, you've got 30, 40,000 people in the clinical trial, and then suddenly millions of people, you start to see reports of other very rare occurrences. And this is still very much being studied and looked into. Back in February 27th, there was a researcher, a hematologist actually in Vienna, who admitted a 49-year-old woman who had blood clots, both arterial and venous blood clots in the abdominal circulation. She said, this is a little bit bizarre. There's something going on here. And so she reached out to her colleagues who were doing some other work around thrombosis, meaning blood clots, and they started to talk. And it turns out there have been these very rare occurrences of people getting an immune-mediated situation where the platelets go down, which are part of the blood that of course causes clots, and then you also start to have blood clots. So it's a very unusual immune-mediated phenomenon. It is extremely rare, and it actually, all of the occurrences were in younger people because of course in the real world data, when AstraZeneca was initially being used there in many of the European countries, it was actually being used in younger people under the age of 55, many of them women. I think it's still, again, under investigation at this stage. Very much the recommendations are the benefits of this vaccine definitely outweigh the risks. We're keeping an eye on how there's an amazing consortium, including scientists from Canada who are hematologists who are working around the actual biology of this. The other important piece to know is this immune-related phenomena in those extremely rare occurrences when it happens with the thrombosis, it is treatable. So it's actually very similar to a condition that we treat. It's rare, but we do treat it. I've treated many patients with it, called heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, and we do have therapies to give for that.
This is our review and monitoring process working. The fact that we're catching these things, even though it's so rare, and we're openly sharing it, and there's press conferences going on. Dr. Sharma, I see you on the news all the time where you're letting us know what's happening.
If I can also point out, Sam, that a lot of the reason this information is being pushed out is for those of us who are clinicians on the ground, right? Just so that it's extremely rare, but they want us to actually think about this. This just so that we actually we know that this is a treatable condition if it happened to occur, and they want us to recognize it, right? So I think part of the push out around information is related to that.
And Sam, maybe to add, this was the commitment that we made with respect to the vaccines overall. What we said is that we would tell you what we knew, what we didn't know, and if new information became available, we would let you know as well, and let you know what we're doing about it. We call the post-market space, once we have this out in the real world, it's messy. Like, the data is messy. Adverse events don't show up in a box with a big bow on it and it said, here I am, I can only be caused by a vaccine. It's really clear that this is what the risk is, and then this is what you should do about it. It takes some time. And so what I wanted to say, that I think with respect to this adverse event, it is very rare. We don't think it's a nothing. So we think that there's something there. It's not a nothing burger, is what I'm telling people. But the question is, how rare is it? Is there a group? Is there a subgroup where it actually changes that benefit risk? Does it change for a specific sex and gender group? Does this change for an age group? Does it change for people that have other risks for clots? And right now, the numbers are so small that that's not clear, right? And so I think at some point, we'll continue to do the assessment, as Dr. Richardson and Dr. Government has said. Like, we've got people, like I'm working 24/7 on this issue now, like including all through the weekend. If anything changes, even on a precautionary approach, if we need to do something to either pause or to stop the use of the vaccine in a group, we're not going to hesitate to do that. We don't have any preference for any of these vaccines. We do not work with, we regulate the pharmaceutical companies. We have, they have to do their job. We do our job, which is health protection. So if that changes at all, we'll step in and make some decisions. So even if we're starting to look at the point, if we say that it's like, it's a something, but it's taking too long for us to assess, sometimes we'll jump in and make some decisions there as well. So I think the bottom line is that this, as you said, this is a system working. It's not going to be something that's really simple, but we're working nonstop to make sure that whatever decisions need to be made, that'll be made as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible for everyone.